Imagine a situation where there is a change in time and a merger is created between two timelines. Of course, it is more complex, but this is just to understand the concept. Suppose there is some connection between our consciousness and spacetime. In such a situation, a change in the timeline will allow us to remember information that was in a different timeline. Thus, when there is a change in the timeline, a merger is created between the previous timeline and the new timeline, and our consciousness linked to the time-space can remember the changes they have made. An example of such a situation is a flip-flop, changes that happen to the same object, person, or event several times when the change returned to the original state and changed back several times. This also applies to multiple changes to the same object, person, or event without returning to the original state. In such a situation, one can see evidence from the two timelines that were merged, and some people will testify that the change was from A to B, and some will testify that the change was from B to A. Sometimes you can see it in altered YouTube videos, in articles about products whose names do not match the article, etc. There are two situations in which a merger is created. 1. The change creates a complete change in the result. 2. The change causes a result without a cause. The second example, 2, is created because of a loop of information transfer that is created between the two timelines. Once you make a change in the past, you create a loop in reality. Loop between the future and present timelines and the past. This loop creates a merging of information in the timeline and preserves a final outcome. This may seem insignificant, but these small changes are what preserve the merging of information in the timeline. Small changes without causing significant destruction of the timeline during the merger. I believe that the events that are chosen to undergo change are chosen according to the general consciousness. Small changes that have a strong memory in the general consciousness. Thus, when you choose changes with a strong conscious memory, you create a merger of information in the timeline at the level of consciousness and thus avoid performing the merger on the physical level, physical events. This allows the final outcome of the timeline to be preserved by merging information without destroying the timeline at the level of physical events. I believe some people have a conscious link to the original timeline, which allows them to experience the changes as they happen. This link may have been created when there is a link between our consciousness and some source where timeline change has no effect. This link preserves the original timeline because the timeline of the source remains the same but is linked to our consciousness, preserving the original timeline in our consciousness. The source can be those who change the timeline or something much more basic and at the level of the physical elements of reality itself. Suppose our brains are linked by a quantum entanglement or an electromagnetic field that is linked to spacetime. Do you understand where I'm headed? This link created between all consciousnesses is not limited to ordinary space and is also expressed through spacetime. In such a situation, the ability to remember information from a different timeline is created. So if we merged into a new consciousness and timeline, what happened to the other version? Think of reality as a wave. But not just a wave, but a wave as in the wave-particle duality. Our reality is in superposition, like the elementary particles that make up our reality. This basically means that our reality exists in a state of replication within the superposition of matter in a wave in a huge and possibly infinite number. When a merging of realities is created, our reality collapses. The material within our reality collapses in the superposition of the wave, and in fact, reality collapses in a different position within the superposition that the wave function holds. The most important part is that, within this wave, there is a link between the realities, as the double-slit experiment shows us. Whenever there is a change in reality, a fusion is created within the wave function of our reality. It is also what allows our consciousness to notice changes that happen over time because, at the atomic level, the particles that form our thoughts are linked to the wave function of the particle and are linked to all realities. The reason some people experience more changes in reality is very complex and related to the factor that creates the changes, but it can be said that it is related to the replicated state of reality. Think of it this way, someone merges reality A into reality B. The changes that people will experience will consist of 50% of reality A and 50% of reality B. Now what happens when you merge reality C with reality B? People in reality B will experience their reality when 50% of them experience reality C, but because all reality is linked, people in reality A will experience all the mergers that have happened between reality B and reality C. This means that people in reality A will be exposed to a new and different set of experiences, due to the merging of two realities.